morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, and respective radio stations island-wide. I am Charity Dunker, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 19, 2021. At this time, I'd like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Omar Otley, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Good morning to the members of the media, my esteemed colleague, the Council of Ministers, and the people listening via radio and social media. The Collective Preventative Service has started to see an increase in the demand in drive-through testing in Point Blanche. We would also like to notify the public that in the past 2 days, we saw an increase of 25 persons that tested positive for COVID-19. This is quite alarming. This is a major increase to our daily average of 5 to 6 cases. Over the past several weeks, samples have been received from the RIVM and indicated that all recent cases are of the UK variant. Evidence shows that the vaccinations offered by St. Martin, the Pfizer vaccination, is effective against the UK variant. Hence the reason we are asking the public to be vaccinated. If St. Martin continues on this trend, it would seriously jeopardize the vaccination efforts and the effort by Minister of TIAT to open the economy. It will be challenging to continue with a national rollout alongside a resurgence in cases. We urge all residents and visitors to be mindful, wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, sanitize, and most importantly, get vaccinated. I want to encourage all persons that have not been vaccinated to do so. If you have questions, dialogue with your general practitioner. Contact CPS at 914. Visit the vaccination centers at Bel Air or the Vineyard Building. The vaccination centers are open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Today I would like to present to you the Drive for 85 new percentage. We are currently at 35% to our 85% goal. Today we will host a pop-up vaccination at the AUC School of Medicine from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. All persons interested in receiving their vaccine who work or reside in the Kupakoi or surrounding areas are encouraged to come out. I am happy to also announce that on Saturday, May 22nd, CPS will host another pop-up vaccination at the Orange Grove Pharmacy in Coal Bay. We will offer free shuttles from 8 p.m. hourly for anyone in the vicinity of Coal Bay, Simpson Bay, K Bay. The vaccination pop-up will be from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I would also like to answer the question from Ms. Bibi Hal-Shah and included in my briefing from last week. CPS has reached out to their French counterparts, the ARS, who confirmed that their active cases last week were 55. They also confirmed that there was an increase of 60-some odd persons before, but with their recovery, they are at 55. They have no idea where the 362 come from. I can only relay the message that comes from our French counterparts. St. Martin St. Martin will reopen to the ABC Islands with the following requirements. Fully vaccinated persons from these islands are allowed to enter with a 48-hour antigen test. Non-vaccinated persons are only allowed to enter with a PCR test of 72 hours or less. The same will go for residents looking to return from these islands. Vaccinated persons are allowed antigen tests. Non-vaccinated persons are only allowed PCR tests. I will now touch on the labor and also answer the question to Mr. Cerillion from last week. We touched on unemployment numbers. I would first like to notify the public that unemployment persons, being persons without a job, have been actively seeking work for the past 4 weeks, are available to start work within the next 2 weeks. The definition also includes persons who have found a job and are waiting to start within the next 2 weeks. Underemployed persons is a measure of employment and labor utilization in the economy that looks at how well the labor force is being utilized in terms of skill, experience, and availability to work. It refers to the situation in which individuals are forced to work with low-paying scale jobs. It is important for the public to understand these figures do not represent national data of unemployment or underemployment, as it is tasked by the Department of Statistics to collect data by way of labor force survey. The Ministry of Labor will commence with the labor market analysis. As of 2017, there was a total of 429 job seekers, registered job seekers. 2018, 472 registered job seekers. 2019, 257 registered job seekers. 2020, there was a total of 332 registered job seekers. We are not able to give the final number for 2021. However, for the first quarter of 2021, there's 87 registered job seekers. Compare this to 2020, in the first quarter, there were 58 registered job seekers. So we see an increase in the first quarter compared to 2020 of 29 persons. The Department of Community Development, Family and Humanitarian Affairs is eager to collaborate with contractors on the upcoming home repair. I am encouraging all local contractors to submit their bids for this great initiative as the ministry continue to seek possibilities to create employment opportunity and safe homes for those in need. All are required to submit your bids to cdfha@stmartingov.org. The deadline to do so is May 25th, 2001. I would also like to touch on the events being held. This weekend, there was an event by the Calaboom organizers in which I must commend them for their efforts. They required persons to test 48 hours before entering this event. All persons from entertainers of the event were tested and tested the day of. During their testing, they found detected seven persons that were positive, 2 of which were positive on-site testing. Although the persons that they came with were negative, they were denied entry as well. I have been in talks with the Ministry of Justice, who gave me permission today to make this announcement. We will now collaborate for any events being held. There will now need to be requirements of testing and vaccination. Out of the 300 persons at that event, there was a total of 107 persons that were vaccinated as well. This is a major prevention to mass spreading. So there will be a collaboration with the Ministry of VSR and the Ministry of Justice with issuance of permits for events being held moving forward. Thank you. I await any questions from the media.
Thank you, Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Omar Otley, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to invite the Honorable Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, to address you.
Go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Dunker, and good morning, PM, colleague ministers, members of the media, public of St. Martin. A blessed day. I would like to inform the public of St. Martin that the Belvedere Football Club Association organized the Johan Cruyff birthday tournament on Saturday, May 15th. There was a massive turnout to see the event, to see the games. The members of the 6 clubs were divided into teams in the ages category of 8, 10, 13, 15, and under. The 6 clubs of the BFC were Hotspurs FC, FC Swaliga, Willful Skillful, SCSA Eagles, and Risk Takers. The Belvedere Football Club Association was assisted by the St. Martin Football Federation in collaboration with World Coaches. Being present and seeing our young athletes demonstrate their skills was good. I want to encourage the leaders of the Belvedere Football Club to keep up the excellent work. I know it could be challenging at times, but keeping our children engaged in sports is great for their developments. The winners of the ages 8 and under were Skillful Willful with MVP Lucas. For the ages 10 and under, SCSA Eagles with MVP Lily. For the ages 13 and under, Risk Takers with the most valuable player Diego. For the ages 15 and under, Risk Takers with MVP Carlos of Hotspurs FC. And the most disciplined trophy went to FC Swaliga. Once again, congratulations to all the winners, and thank you to the supporters for being there in one way or the other and supporting the teams. Football is a sport that connects the whole world, and world coaches play a significant role in this by inspiring and guiding children on a sporting and social level on 3 themes: personal development, health, and social cohesion. The World Coaches is a program produced by the KNVB and is based on KNVB's many years of international experience in coaching and training. Since 2018, St. Martin Football Federation, with the help of KNVB and instructor Pete de Jong, has implemented the World Coaches coaching courses on St. Martin, and over the years graduated over 50 world coaches on the island. Coaches are able to upgrade to a new level yearly. Once coaches become certified, they are then able to partake in the scheduled events of the Football Federation activities, such as afternoon school activities and programs at various schools on the island. This year's graduation class was the biggest so far in the history of World Coaches on St. Martin. A total of 21 coaches received their introductory level Part 1 certificate on Saturday, and 8 received their basic level Part 1 certification as well. I hope we can continue to develop many more world coaches for St. Martin in the future. And once again, I would like to congratulate all the young world coaches and encourage them to continue to guide our youngsters so that they can become great leaders on St. Martin. I would like to convey congratulations to the 9 persons who graduated from UVI St. Thomas Primary School as primary school teachers. There is a need for teachers, and I am happy that these persons are successful and can take up their positions alongside their colleagues here in St. Martin. The persons who graduated were Natasha Abraham, Geraldine Gomes, Lucinda Gomes, Beverly Harrison Orr, Alvarine Harv, Tanisha Morris, Fabiana Richardson, Shadeska Richie Wallace, and Janira Samuel. I know the celebration for their graduation will take place here in St. Martin on June 26th, so we will await that moment to celebrate with them here at home. Today, May 18, is the commencement of international, not today then, but yesterday, May 18, was the beginning of International Museum Week. The objective is to raise awareness of the fact that museums are an important means of cultural exchange, enrichment of cultures, and development of natural understanding, cooperation, and peace among peoples. The theme for this year, the future of museums, recover and reimagine. And during the week, there is a calendar of events. The first event is today at the Sundial School at 3:30 p.m. Recover Baking. On Tuesday, May 20th, at 11 a.m. at the St. Martin Museum, Recover Craft. On Friday, May 21st, at 11 a.m. at the St. Martin Museum, Recover Craft. On Friday, 21st, at 5:30 p.m. at the St. Martin Museum, Recover History. And on Saturday, May 22nd, at 2 p.m., Recover and Reimagine the historical landmarks. I encourage all the people of St. Martin, all of us, to support the museum this week. I thank you, and I await any questions. I have one additional announcement, and that is the exams regarding naturalizations, because I get a lot of questions about that, will begin in August this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, none other than Minister Doran, to join us. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague ministers, members of the media, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Today, I have a few brief updates for you from the Ministry of Romy. I'll start off with the demolition, as was asked previously by Mr. Cerillion a couple of weeks ago. Due to the fact of a bit of logistical changes, now we have definitive dates for the walkthroughs and the eventual demolition of the work, tendering of the works. I hereby announce the projects are now scheduled to recommence in the upcoming weeks. The first information meeting and walkthrough will take place on June 2nd for the demolition of the former post office, the former Justice building on June 9th, and the former government building on June 16th. During these sessions, contractors will be able to pose any questions that they may have in relation to these projects. A publication will be made by the Ministry of Romy with the specific dates for the tendering of the demolition projects. In efforts to improve efficiency and accuracy, we continue to look at ways to improve our processes. Namely, the Ministry of Romy has now introduced the receiving of digital copies of bids, this alongside with the regular hard copies, which is reflected in the terms of reference. For further information about the tender procedure and projects, please contact MinVromy, so MINVROMI, publictenders@stmartingov.org. In regards to the streetlights, I was informed that NVGEB has already changed the decorative lights on the boardwalk and incorporated them with the community safety lights in collaboration with CAP-ASM. The boardwalk is now being used by many individuals during the night. As crime prevention is an aspect, these lights create comforting feeling for the people of St. Martin. The intention is to extend throughout the entire Phillipsburg area based on the new streetlights agreement and around the island in general. Currently, NVGEBE is awaiting the shipment of streetlights to continue with the maintenance of the streetlight network, as was agreed upon in the streetlight agreement that was signed earlier this year. In regards to the road patching program, the road patching program and maintenance program is scheduled to start back next week, Tuesday, May 25th. There will be a general public notice in the coming days to notify motorists and residents of the possible interference in the identified areas. I urge motorists to drive with caution during the execution of these works in interest of safety for the workers as well. That will be all for today. I thank you, and I look forward to any questions that the media might have.
Thank you, Minister of Romy, Egbert Duran, for addressing us. At this time, I'd like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Silveria Jacobs, to join us at the podium.
Thank you very much, Charity. Good morning to my colleague ministers. Good morning to the members of the press, to you, Ms. Donker, and of course to the listening and viewing public, people of St. Martin, both here and abroad. Thank you for joining us for this press briefing, and of course our apologies for the technical difficulties that we just experienced at the start. From the Ministry of General Affairs, I'd like to update that training for firefighters has been procured. Let's say members of the St. Martin Fire Department will be traveling to Austria for a training program of new firefighting vehicles, which were purchased via the National Recovery Bureau, NRPB. This training is for education purposes in being able to operate these new vehicles. The trip is intended to check the construction process and ensure that the final product meet the requirements of our local fire department before it is accepted and shipped. Of course, we're happy to be able to ensure that training continues throughout the service. As such, civil servants, 6 of our legal affairs department lawyers are participating in a law program course of the University of Curacao. The course began in September of 2020 and has a duration of 1 year. The objective is to empower our civil servants with more expertise in the legal field, and there still, of course, remains a need for more legal personnel throughout the organization. So via this medium, I'd like to encourage all our students abroad, those who have completed their studies recently, but also those who have already gained some experience, to look into opportunities to help grow our expertise right here on St. Martin. Especially as we're going through all the necessary preparations for reforms, there will be a great need for even more of our people to see opportunities to contribute to St. Martin's growth. What has, of course, dominated the discussions over the past few days is what our government is busy with, and that is the discussion on the liquidity support for St. Martin in the tune of 39 million guilders, which was already approved since April of 2021. To date, government has not received said liquidity support. This delay has been very concerning to us as government, especially as we have been hearing claims that all of this is in the best interest of the people of St. Martin. However, we note that the goalpost continues to be moved and agreements that have been made are not being lived up to. As we all know, it was first delayed back in March of 2021 when the agenda point was removed for another unrelated matter regarding the COHO and Parliament's stance on it. This delay has been now taken off the table, caused a delay of more than 4 weeks, and on April 23rd, St. Martin was determined by the Kingdom Council of Ministers to have met the conditions to be able to receive the liquidity support. We received a message that we would receive the loan agreement the following day, and to date, that has not been sent. For us, it is unclear, especially with the letter that was sent and how the two things that have been put together do not fit. Another reason that does have nothing to do with our liquidity support. The agreement with the reconstruction is one that falls within the NRPB, the trust fund, and all agreements are between St. Martin, the airport, Schiphol Group, and the World Bank. As such, it is quite disconcerting that these are being linked to the liquidity support for St. Martin, which we originally had discussions on regarding reforms. We are well on our way to executing, actually, to have the second implementation agenda finalized. And the amazing work that has been done by our technical teams has been more than satisfactory in the discussions that we've had back and forth. So it is in good faith that we continue to meet this week with the temporary work organization from the Netherlands and hope to see that we can get this, let's call it impasse, resolved as soon as possible in the interest of our vital processes that the State Secretary mentioned in his letter being negatively impacted without that necessary liquidity. Where it is linked now to the corporate governance of PJIAE and PJIAH, I would like to clarify for the people of St. Martin that within our implementation agenda, there is a part where we're working on corporate governance. There is indeed, I believe is it B15 under that, where our Secretary General of the CoM has the lead and is working together with setting up an implementation team. So the study has been done, we've agreed on what needs to be done, and that is moving forward. However, that has no bearing whatsoever on what is going on at the airport currently. So it is a plan to improve corporate governance. However, those two things cannot now be linked to say without proper governance at the airport according to those standards that we are then not able to receive liquidity support. There will be a trajectory for that phase to continue, and we would like to ensure that the people of St. Martin understand that those are two completely separate things. Government has been it has been brought to our attention that there is a challenge with the corporate governance at the airport. We are doing our due diligence where that is concerned, and I would like that the general public also respect that as a shareholder, we must do our due diligence with some level of confidentiality, and it's not about any one person. It is about what is in the best interest of St. Martin, and ensuring that government's goal in completing this project is seen as a high priority and respected by all those who have been put in place to manage and supervise at the airport. We would also like to ensure that the employees at the airport are aware that their concerns have also come to our ears, and that the operating company, both management and supervisory, will also be held accountable to ensure that proper steps are taken to involve the employees, ensure that the culture becomes a more positive one, especially as we're now going into what will be one of the more busier seasons that we've had for this year, with the home porting starting and with the increase of flights at the airport. We must protect our patrimony, and so as Government of St. Martin, as I have stated to all stakeholders, we remain committed to doing so within the confines of our law where we are at the moment. Also, from the Ministry of General Affairs, Minister already mentioned it, but yesterday being International Museum Day, I would like to congratulate all those who have, over the years, made it possible that we have even the little museum that we have, and look forward to us being able to spread the historical lessons of St. Martin further as we move forward with what is to come. Recover and reimagine is exactly where we are at this moment, and so I look forward to that, and I encourage the general public to visit the online register for the St. Martin National Heritage Museum Facebook page. I'd also like to recognize that on Sunday, May 16, it was the International Day of the Boy. Yes, it got little to no attention. However, I think especially in this day and age, we do, we are seeing more and more boys falling by the wayside in education and in society. And as a community, we must do everything to highlight boys, to be mentors to them, to ensure that they stay on the right path and can be contributing citizens to making St. Martin the great island, or continuing to have St. Martin as the great island that it is. So congratulations to all you boys, and I encourage the men of St. Martin to mentor a young man or a boy today. If you're not already doing that, that little bit of attention can make the difference in ensuring that they go the right path. The Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, will be meeting next week in preparation for the coming hurricane season. Due to unforeseen circumstances, our meeting of last week had to be canceled, but we will be meeting, so all ESFs have been making their preparations and will be updating me as chair of the EOC as to our preparation levels. And I would like to encourage the people of St. Martin to continue to monitor the weather reports as our hurricane season commences on June 1st. It's a yearly tradition for us. We're all used to it, but especially in these days where we're now also dealing with the pandemic, preparations should also include COVID-19 preparedness, ensuring that you have all you need to keep yourself and your families safe. Also, some of the shelters, a whole list of shelters, have been equipped with water tanks and generators, and as such, those announcements will be made for those persons who do not feel safe in their homes when the times come, that they can register and make sure they have everything they need to move in time. As our Minister of ASR so aptly mentioned, we must continue to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Many on St. Martin, though we have been quite blessed, act as if COVID is gone. It is not. There are still persons suffering with COVID-19 on the island, even in hospital, and I pray for the recovery of all those who are still going through the pains of that and their families. But I encourage you all to maintain the well-known COVID-19 measures to keep yourself and your family safe. Avoid large gatherings, especially where you do not know the status of those persons, and keep yourself the safe social distance and hand washing etiquette, etc., at a high level. As a matter of fact, from what I've gathered, there's been actually less viruses in general going around on St. Martin as a result of these measures. So that contributes to the general health of our community. Go out, get vaccinated, so that we can, as soon as possible, get back to some sense of normalcy. That's all for now, and I also have other meetings, so if there is not a question for me directly right away, then I will then be leaving the press briefing as well. Thank you.
Thank you to the Honorable Prime Minister Silveria Jacobs for her opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you're tuned into the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 19, 2021. At this time, we'll move over to the question and answer session, reminding all media persons, since we do have extensive media, to do keep all questions short and concise and also to the point, please. Inviting Ms. Bibi Hardshaw from SMN News, you have the floor.
Good morning, Charity. Thank you. Good morning, ministers and colleagues. Prime Minister Jacob, I took note of your lengthy presentation regarding the financial situation and the liquidity support. Can you tell us exactly what is Plan B, and does St. Martin have money to pay salaries at the end of this month? Plan B in the sense of, if we do not get the money, what's next?
Thank you for that question. Indeed, there is sufficient to pay salaries. When I say the vital processes of government are jeopardized by not having the funds, there is much more than salaries that government has to pay. There are obligations to subsidy recipients and for us to be able to run the country on a daily basis. So those are the things that are in jeopardy, as well as, of course, the SSRP and unemployment. That is the main area where the liquidity support would cover, and so that is in jeopardy. So there is no let's say, current Plan B as such. We have, as you know, last year exhausted that to some extent. But if the need arises and we have to go that route, then we have to go that route. But for now, I'm just asking, the persons out there who we do owe, who have not received their payments in due time, to have understanding for the fact of the matter that we are at an impasse at this moment, and I hope to have it resolved by the end of this week. There is another Kingdom Council of Ministers meeting scheduled for the 28th. They were trying to push it for this Friday, but the convocations had not gone out in time, etc. And I'm very happy about that because, as I mentioned before, the decision for this $39 million has already been made. And so any attempt to not carry out that is actually an illegal one. You asked another question, or that was it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Bibi, for the question. Moving on to Jeffrey Saccharin of Island 92, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Minister Otley, if I might, you said something in your opening statement that was most interesting. You talked about with events that were happening, both vaccination and testing would be requirements for events. If you could elaborate a little bit more, because I think we're seeing, out in the field that there is still a ton of skepticism and, quite frankly, anger about the vaccine, and it has become a very polarizing issue. So perhaps attendance at an event requiring a vaccination and a test might be yet another impetus for people to get vaccinated. But what else are we thinking to do? If you could elaborate a little bit on the testing and the requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sack. It was actually at the end of the press briefing. What I mentioned was the event that was held. Persons were required to test 48 hours to the event. There were also on-site testing by nurses, registered nurses, via Friendside and Dutside. In collaboration with the Ministry of Justice, party promoters, when requiring permits for any event going forward, would need to implement such plan. One of the things that we asked from the population is to have 85% vaccinated to 75%, 75 to 85%. As government, I go for the higher number. So it would be good if we can have some type of way to increase the vaccination levels for party goers. That's why they also notified the ministry that out of 300 persons, 107 was vaccinated. So going forward now, we don't want to shut the economy down, but like you said, the safety of St. Martin is my interest. So we need to find a middle ground that we can have economic stimulants, economic activities, but in a safe and productive manner. And I think that to implement testing requirements to these permits is a great way moving forward.
Thank you, Minister Otley, and also Dr. Sack. Moving on to Steven Cerillion of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Duncher. Good morning to you, Prime Minister. Good morning to you, ministers, as well. I have a clarification for the Minister of VSA. You said that St. Martin will reopen to the ABC Islands. This will be done as of when? And for the Prime Minister, my question, firefighters will be traveling to Australia for a series of training and what have you, Prime Minister. Precisely how many firefighters and when will they be leaving?
You go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Cerillion. That is correct. As Minister of Public Health, I notified the CoM of my intentions. They all were in approval of my intentions to open to the ABC, so the decision was therefore taken. The next step, it was sent to the Inspectorate, Dr. Earl Best, who will then update the EHAS. He will then determine the time it will take to have all relevant persons notified. Once that is given to me, it will be presented to the media. But my goal is to do it real soon, as a decision has already been made now to open to them.
All right. Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Stephen. Moving on to member of the media, or also Prime Minister, sorry.
Yes, sorry. I don't have the exact number at hand of the firefighters, which I can send for you after. However, they will be traveling on May 24th.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prime Minister. Also, Stephen. The next member I'll be calling on of the media, Lyndon Brown of BCN TV. You have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin, and good morning to the ministers that are present here today. Question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, it is very good that you are so vocal. Now, the problem at the Juliana International Airport, it seems like it is tied in with the Schiphol and the Dutch lending agencies. Now, it has been mentioned that the problem at the airport must be restored. Otherwise, there will be consequences. Is there an impression that because of the problem at the airport, the liquidity fund is being holding back?
I think in my opening statements I mentioned, and as all saw when the State Secretary published his letter in the media, that is apparently the link that is trying to be made. However, they are completely unrelated to what is going on at the airport, is completely unrelated to the liquidity support that we have signed on for as a result of our COVID-19 economic downfall. As a result of the economic downfall that we are facing, as are many countries or most countries around the world, we requested liquidity support via our Kingdom partner. Also, we know the trajectory to borrow outside of the Kingdom requires, let's say, that we go through the Kingdom first or through the Dutch government first, and that is just how our Kingdom works. The airport has agreements for its reconstruction through the trust fund and a loan via the EIB, the European International Bank. Those conditions included good corporate governance. Government of St. Martin has it on its scope and is doing what needs to be done. There should be no linking of that to our current liquidity issues. I'm hoping that is clear.
Okay. Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Lyndon. Into our second round of questions, Ms. Bibi Shah Hodge of SMN News. You have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Prime Minister, I'll take a follow-up on the PGIE. Can you give me your thoughts on the agreement that is soon to expire between Schiphol, the Royal Group, and PGIE? Is government in agreement with the idea of extending this agreement for an unlimited amount of time?
I think I've already mentioned this in previous press briefings, Ms. Shah, but I will reiterate here for those who are unclear. There is a cooperation agreement that was signed at the beginning of this agreement to have Schiphol involved in the reconstruction project. As such, the Dutch government is supporting that effort financially, Schiphol's involvement. Those agreements are between PGIAH, Dutch government, and Schiphol. For the construction to continue as was agreed upon, the agreement needs to be extended. It would end in August of this year, and it should be renegotiated up to 6 months before. So we're currently in that renegotiation process. The holding company brought forth their concerns with what had been, let's say, asked to be added or changed within it, and we've given our feedback, and we do agree that it should be up until the end of the project. So we do agree as government for the cooperation agreement to continue, and that both sides live up to that agreement, but that it would end at the time that the construction ends, which is projected for 2023. And that has been made clear to all concerned.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, Bibi. Jeffrey Saccharin of Island 92, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Minister Otley, if I might press back a little bit on the rapid increase that we've seen in COVID cases. I agree with you, and I think the members of our community completely agree. It's been very, very alarming. There's a fair amount of anger out there. How can we turn this around? How do we convince people that the vaccination is a good thing? You know, maybe I kind of like what you alluded to a little bit of tough love. You know, come to the event, you need to be vaccinated. Maybe that's an opportunity going forward. How do we turn this around? How do we reduce the anger, increase the education that this is the best vaccine on the planet for COVID, and the science is 100% behind it? How do we drive this forward and continue to drive the cases down, Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Sack. As you know, we host vaccination panels where we try to inform and educate the public on the vaccination process, the medical findings, the research. I was in my first ILO symposium yesterday, and I was able to hear from many of the ministers of health and labor their ideas and their processes in the different countries. Now, we are quite lenient when it comes to vaccination. As we know, it's your free will. We cannot force you, but some places are very, very strict when it comes to vaccinations. Unfortunately, we don't want to get to that part, so we need to find a way that people can see that vaccinations. To be vaccinated now is almost going to be a way of life if we see that countries are implementing vaccination passports. And currently the ministry is in talks with Aruba because they have a very good system in which they test the validity of your vaccination card. It's an application that is being used. So right now, the Ministry of Public Health, my epidemiologist, and the inspectorate, I told them to be in talks with Aruba so that we can then adapt this procedure. And one of the things that we actually plan to do based on scientific evidence is that allow persons to, in the near future, enter our ports of entry without being without having a required test, because reports from the CDC shows that vaccination transmission, once you are vaccinated, the transmission levels are very, very minimal. Hence the reason why they made announcements of such. So that's part of the requirement. It's going to be something that is going to be a part of our everyday life. So my job is to get the people of St. Martin ready.
Yes, Prime Minister.
Yes, I'd like to add to the question asked earlier. There are 4 firefighters that will be leaving on the 24th of May and 2 in June.
All right. Thank you both, Minister Otley as well as Prime Minister, for answering. Stephen Sewellen of PJD2 Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Ms. Doncher. How many more questions do we have?
You'll be giving your last round.
Okay.
Yeah?
Prime Minister, if I may direct my question to you. The junior minister is to arrive here today, if not, has already arrived. Sure, you will be meeting with him in one way or the other. Can you paint a picture for us, if you may, as to what can be expected to be discussed during his visit to St. Martin and to you and the CoM in particular?
Thank you for that question, Stephen. From St. Martin's point of view, we look forward to being able to clarify, because as I mentioned before, I don't know who was providing the State Secretary with some of the information that he had in his letter, but they were not based in fact. And so I would like the opportunity, even though I did respond in writing, to in person be able to clarify the points. Our technical teams are meeting still up to now on the requirements for the next implementation agenda. So it's a far cry to request or ask these people to even continue to work on a new agreement when you have not yet lived up to the other one. So I'm hoping that by him being here this week, seeing it for himself, hearing it directly for himself also. Last week in the steering committee meeting, the World Bank made it very clear that we were living up to all the other agreements as well. So for me, it is a matter of a face-to-face meeting to reiterate the position of St. Martin and request the State Secretary to live up to the agreements that have been legally decided upon in the Kingdom Council of Ministers. And so his mandate is to make sure that we have those agreements to sign and that the funds are made available to St. Martin. Any discussion moving forward about new conditions should then and can be linked to any further tranches that may be needed. But this last tranche that we're talking about, the requirements for that have been met. So that is the stance of St. Martin, and we're hoping that the State Secretary is open to listen and understand the realities of that.
Okay. I understood that the Honorable Prime Minister will be having to leave the meeting at this time. Members of the media, if you have any further questions that you'd like to have sent to the Honorable Prime Minister, do be sure to forward those questions to the Cabinet. Moving forward now with the next member of the media, Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to the Minister of Vroomi. Minister Vroomi, we are focusing on the Belvedere Housing Foundation. About over 56 tenants are still unhappy. Can you tell us how the progress, how the maintenance of the house began? They are still complaining that they are still getting leakage, and recently you said that you was in the area. So could you tell us what is happening over there, up there at the Belvedere Housing Foundation, and how this problem will be solved eventually?
Good morning again. Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Brown. I think it was roughly about a month ago. I had a tour at the SMHDF, St. Martin Housing Development Foundation, with the two directors and also technical staff. We had a walkthrough on various homes that were repaired, and that process continues. As we know, I'm not sure if you're talking about the towers or the houses in general, but one of the main issues they have is that the towers are in a deplorable state. Some tenants were given the option to leave and move to different areas. That's why when you see a house is empty in a particular area, it doesn't go to someone on the waiting list, but it goes directly to those tenants, because the main objective is to empty those buildings as soon as possible in anticipation of the funds that I think is $5 million, if I'm not mistaken, that will be coming from the trust fund to repair those two towers. The Housing Foundation recently refinanced their loan, and they are now busy with the renovations on different homes. So in coming time, that will be addressed. I know that it is definitely an issue. I've seen pictures for myself. I've seen a lot of homes in person. And I hope and encourage those tenants to have some patience, although I know they've been patient for quite a long time. But definitely I can say that the loan was given to Housing Foundation when they refinanced, and that is in the process at the moment. And also the bigger picture is in terms of renovating the two towers in the near future. Hopefully that can be done sooner than later. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, and also thank you, Lyndon, for the question. Ms. Bibi Hadshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. I'll ask the Minister of VSR a follow-up before my final question. Minister Otley, you mentioned updating the EHAS for ABC Islands. What about getting all information regarding the entry to St. Martin? Just recently, I had some people that are saying that when they send in their PCR negative test, it's been denied. And the reason is because St. Martin is not accepting PCR mouth swab. But this is not in the website, on the site. Can you address if that kind of information will be updated? And Minister Samuel, thank you for your lengthy information on sports, but it has been quite some weeks. I asked you about the division inspection. When are they going to be officially placed in the new location that they are supposed to or was supposed to be placed in? Because I think all these workers are at home, boxes all over the place, and they're still not in their offices, or have that been done in the meantime? And can you tell us also, Minister, there has been a backlog in the naturalization exam. You said there is an exam that will take place in August. Do you know if the department will be able to cover all the people that they have on the list?
Thank you, Ms. Shah. You're not the first person that I've heard with this complaint. However, I have relayed the questions to the head of CPS, and they informed me that on the EHAS website, it does specifically says nasal for PCR testing. However, I will double check. I can only give you the information that I have received. I will double check this, and if it's not, then I would ensure that it specifically and clearly states what type of PCR testing are required. But like I stated to Dr. Sack, hopefully with the cooperation of St. Martin, with the cooperation of the countries, once persons are vaccinated, we won't have to go through this real soon. So we're in the process.
Mm-hmm. Minister of Education.
Thank you, Bibi, for the question. In regards to the question of naturalization, I know there have been a pause, and I can imagine that there are many persons who are awaiting a turn to be able to sit their exams, their naturalizations exam. However we do it, Bibi, we would have to we would make sure that everyone gets help, because it's a process, and I do not believe it would only be one exam day. So as we follow up with the necessary schedule, we would be able to assist all the persons that needs to sit the exam for their naturalizations. The Inspectorate of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, indeed, they have moved from the location where they were to the Brooks Towers. And up until yesterday, I believe that the move is pretty much finished. We were just looking into providing the internet and telephone connections, and that can be done very fast by using, let's say, maybe a dongle, and this would make the work commence faster than delaying and waiting until the other connections are done. That the workers are at home, I don't know of that part, because I know they were using another facility to work in the meantime. However, I believe within short, they would be well settled at the Brooks Towers building, and the work will continue from there. I thank you.
Thank you both ministers for answering the question from Baby. Moving on to Jeffrey Saccharin of Island 92, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Minister DeMoran, I'd like to revisit an old topic, if we might. I suspect you know what I'm going to ask, because we've talked about this for a while. Any progress with our friends at GEBE with regard to a solar policy and how this might be ultimately rolled out to the community here on the island? It's been a little bit, and I thought it was to have time to kind of dust it off and see if we've made any progress. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sack. Indeed, I knew the question before you asked it. It's been on my mind as well. Unfortunately, I have no updates from GEBE on that point. As you know, GEBE has been going through quite some challenges in terms of different change in management and so forth. Nevertheless, the same question was posed by a member of parliament during our last plenary session a couple of weeks ago. I indicated to the director that I would like to receive the responses very soon so that I can reschedule that meeting, to continue that meeting then. And in those responses, then I will be able to give you a more elucidate update as to the state of affairs at the moment, but I have not received any update so far with respect to the solar energy plan from GB. But it is one of their agreements in the concession, and they have to live up to it. And that very specific question was posed, so I will be looking forward to update you as soon as I get more information.
Thank you, Minister Duran, and also thank you, Jeffrey Saccharin. Stephen Cyrillian of PJD2, you have the floor.
Thank you once again. I will direct my question to the Minister of VSA. Not VSA, but rather the Minister of ROMI. Minister, you have addressed extensively the many things that ROMI has been doing. But what we fail to see is the fact that road markings have been taking place. In fact, we have not seen that for a while now, especially pedestrian crossings. What are you doing to make sure that this situation is addressed? And the constant having to maneuver between vehicles parked on the sidewalk, how are you addressing that?
Just for clarity's sake on your question, when you talk about a sidewalk, you're talking about in Phillipsburg on Front Street? Okay. With respect to the road markings, I mentioned last week as well when I indicated that the street signs were being put out. I also indicated that a process has been initiated for the painting as well, and I indicated that one of the priority areas is in the area of the Yogesh building going up to Cahill, because there's a lot of confusion sometimes in terms of cars crossing over. So that is already in the pipeline, as well as the road, as the street signs, as I indicated. In relations to the cars parking on the sidewalk, I had a meeting with the Minister of Justice 2 weeks ago, because that is, of course, you could give fines for those things. We're busy now with getting the signs to put up in order for the police officers to be able to execute and give fines in the event of. Because as you know, I mean, as any good citizen knows, in good conscience, that is not something to do. It looks wrong, and is not a good thing. So we are definitely paying attention to that, and you will be hearing more in the coming days. Once we put on the signs, and then the police will be able to enforce on that point. But
Thank you.
just for clarity's sake, again, the Ministry of ROMI is responsible for actually executing the work. The Ministry of Traffic and the police in collaboration have to indicate where signs and what needs to be done. So just for the public to understand that as well. So it is an interministerial project, but it does have our attention because it is something that every weekend you pass, you see it is very unfortunate. It's not a pretty sight to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Stephen, for the question. Moving on to last member of the media, Mr. Lyndon Brown, for your question.
Last question to the Minister of Education. Minister of Education, you emphasize that Museum Week. I impress of the different activities, food and craft that our people here in St. Martin are doing. After it all over, Minister, you're going to harness all of these great work that the different organized schools will be doing, and at least encourage them to have their own business in the future?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the question. Mr. Brown, this week for Museum Week, there are going to be different projects or workshops happening. It means that persons can go and register and take part in the workshops in order to learn to do a couple of things. And this afternoon at 3:30 p.m., there will be a tart baking workshop. You know, the coconut tart, the pineapple tart, the guava berry tart. So you can go there this afternoon from you, the public, can be there this afternoon from 3:30 p.m. at the workshop at the Sundial School. And as I indicated, on Thursday, May 28th, there will be also a workshop at the museum for nail boarding. There will be a workshop on Friday, May 21st, for croquet workshop. And also on Friday, May 21st, there will be a question and answer session and storytelling at the museum. And it will end on Saturday, May 22nd at 2 p.m. also with Recover and Reimagine the Historical Landmarks with questions and answers at the museum. I would also like to correct a little piece in regards to the question of Bibi, that the inspectorate will be settling at the Brooks Towers. So, see, I said it wrong again. They moved from the Brooks Towers and will be settling in the BTP building. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And also, thank you, members of the media, for those questions. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, and radio listeners, this does bring us to the end of the Live Council Ministers Press Briefing for today, Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. For rebroadcast, be sure to tune into St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM. For video on demand, do log on to the government's Facebook page as well as YouTube channel. And also, channel Cable TV 115 for video on demand, government's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I am Charity Dunker, bidding everyone a pleasant day further.